we're talking dating and career. What's going on in the dating world, and what does that have to do with career, ladies? What are our thoughts about this?
Well, I'm so excited that we get to talk about this together as a mother-daughter duo. What's fun is we are both single.
Searching for a job and searching for a man are like two equally challenging processes.
Yes.
All online, all using apps.
And we're both going through kind of big, my business is going through a transformation, her career is going through a transformation. So we're dating and having to deal with these big career questions all at the same time.
The easiest way to start your own podcast and TV show? Real News Communications Network. Stand out from your competition. Produce streams of high-quality social media content. Become a thought leader in your industry. With RNCN, you get to be the host. We handle everything else. Tour one of our 3 locations in Dallas, Fort Worth, and the Colony. Call 972-402-6333 or visit launchashow.com/DBJ to find out more.
Welcome to Talk of the Town. I'm Sarah Crilley. What is everyone talking about? Let's hear from Marianne and Tracy. They're in studio with me, the dynamic duo, mother-daughter. What is everyone talking about, ladies?
Sarah, I'm so excited because everybody in my world right now is talking about their careers. That is what we're going to talk about.
And relationships, you have to talk about that too.
Wait a second. Are we about to dive and dish on dating and career? Don't go away. You don't want to miss Marianne and Tracy in the studio with me here with Talk of the Town. We'll be back. And we're back. Oh, I know you didn't want to go away because we're talking dating and career. What's going on in the dating world, and what does that have to do with career, ladies? What are our thoughts about this?
Well, I'm so excited that we get to talk about this together as a mother-daughter duo, right? Because isn't that what every daughter wants to talk about with their mom? But what's fun is we are both single at this stage of our lives at different times, like at the same time, but at different phases, right? Mm-hmm. So, and we're both going through kind of big, my business is going through a transformation, her career is going through a transformation. So we're dating and having to deal with these big career questions all at the same time, which I think a lot of people coming out of the pandemic are thinking the exact same thing, right? What do I want to be? And then where have all the humans been? It's been a big struggle.
Sheltered.
So, a lot of sheltering. Yeah, totally.
So, Mom, what do we think when we're talking dating and career? Let's give some tips and advice and some personal notes about what y'all are going through.
Ooh.
Well,
do you want the war stories or the?
Yeah, really.
We definitely want the war stories, but maybe just kind of the mindset of where you guys are at with dating. Is there the space for that when you're going through some career shifts?
You know, it's really fascinating because searching for a job and searching for a man are like two equally challenging processes.
Yes.
All online, all using apps. It's like, oh my God. And you have to network, and it's just so similar. But to be looking for both at the same time is a little daunting sometimes.
It's true. And for her, she's going through both of those things for the first time in roughly 30 years at the same time. So the dating world has changed, the working world has changed. So I, as a career sort of clarity expert and focus person, look at her and I'm trying to give her advice. And she's like, oh, I don't even know what are the technologies? Where are people meeting each other? Where are people finding jobs? Like, I think that's the biggest thing that shifted that's been fascinating for me to watch is that some of the traditional advice is not working.
In the 21st century, everything has changed and everything is digital and apps and online. LinkedIn is huge. If you're not in LinkedIn when you're searching for a job, you don't exist. Same thing with searching for a person. It's Bumble or Hinge or, pick an app. And if you're not on one of those, it's really, really hard to meet somebody. So for me, going to a bar, talking to a recruiter, that was what I did back in the day. And it was comfortable and easy because it was personal. You were able to meet people where they were and establish that personal connection. And now with apps, both job and dating, it's removed a bit. You're on this online kind of texting and you can miscommunicate. It's just such a different world. It's really different.
So much to unpack here, right? So think about the online experience, and if you are looking for a job or you're, trying to see what's worth dating and what's worth not dating, right? The efficiency that we have for online options is amazing, even when it's to online shopping, so on and so forth. Same thing with career and dating. But how intimidating at the same time.
It's efficient and inefficient because you're like swiping, looking at job boards, getting stuff in your inbox. It's just like you're inundated, but it's like low quality.
So that's what I was going to say is like it's intimidating mostly because if you look at like the paradox of choice and having way too many choices actually creates an extremely higher amount of anxiety for people. Whether you have way too many choices when it comes to the dating pool and now all of a sudden you're crazy picky and you don't pick any of them, right? Or you have way too many choices when it comes to career and everything feels like an overwhelming number, but also underwhelming when you're actually thinking about doing any of those jobs. We have way too many choices when it used to be, I mean, you're not this old, but it used to be like you grew up near people, you only had a handful of jobs to choose from, you only had a handful of neighbors to choose from, and that was kind of going to be your future. And now we're in this world where you could date somebody halfway across the world, and nowadays you could
and
work
not even know it.
And not even know. Those are the war stories that we were talking about.
Okay, we definitely need to come back to that. Okay, for a fellow online dater here, I met my husband online. And what's interesting is I would have never met you, Nick. Honey, you were in the cool Dallas area. I was the mom in the suburbs. Like, I'm so thankful for it. But at the time, it was very intimidating for me.
Yeah.
And I remember, scrolling through, but it wasn't as much of like, okay, are we a match or not a match or so on and so forth. It was more about like, what do I look like? What's the right picture? Do I have my son in the pictures? Do I not have my son in the pictures? What do you put in the description? Because it's just like a really quick decision there.
Is.
That's so stressful. So what is your tips and war stories? Both. I want both when it comes to filling out the online profile for dating and for the job.
Oh, I love this. Do you want to go first or
Okay,
second?
you got to start.
Yeah. Okay. You come on.
Well, the dating tips, you have to be authentic. And you know what's really awesome at my age? Everyone's got a background. Everyone's got a story. Everyone's got baggage. It's just a matter of, is it a carry-on or like a huge steamer trunk?
Yes. What's great about your
I want
age-
the carry-on.
Well, but they're at least honest about it. I feel like people my age are like, I've got a steamer trunk's worth of baggage, but I'm gonna play like I don't, right? And then you're on a first date and they're like, oh, by the way, I'm running from the law or whatever. And you're like, that was not apparent in your picture where you were shirtless, flexing or whatever, right? You're lucky, but also not so much because sometimes people are really good at putting on a charade of looking authentic.
Yeah.
And this is true about the job search too, right? Like there's some people who are so great at showing up in a certain way, or even jobs that look amazing, and then you get into the company or you hire that person, and all of a sudden you're like, what did I just buy? What did I actually get out of this transaction? But your dating stories are pretty hilarious.
Yeah, I had some scammers, and I was just brand new to the scene, and I had no idea that these people were lying to me until I used one of her friends to do background checks, and they don't exist. So
Literally not real people.
Yeah, and you confront them, and they're like, "What are you doing, checking on me?" Well, I'm checking on you because, like, are you real? Yeah, I'm real. I'm talking to you, right? Yeah, but where are you? So
Not where you say you are.
Not real people.
Yeah.
So that's definitely frustrating.
And scary at the same time, too, right? Because you're like, who's looking at my profile where you're not a real person? Who is this?
I think they really target vulnerable, kind of authentic people. you know,
Yeah.
and I was,
too nice.
yeah.
Got those kind
I believe
eyes,
everybody, and, you know, I think everyone's nice. And
That's why you got your daughter to kick down the door.
Unfortunately, yeah. I'm like, okay, he did what? Just delete. But that makes me cynical. So it makes my journey even challenging too, because I want to believe that people are what they say they are, but it doesn't always pan out that way. So, yeah.
What about with the job search? When you're vetting and criteria and what you're presenting about yourself and what you're holding back until the interview, what is that like?
It's
And I can speak to that again too, as a, you know, an older worker. You definitely want to
Not older, seasoned.
Seasoned.
Seasoned
Yes,
worker.
that
Not older.
girl.
I'm an
You needed that.
experienced professional.
Yes.
But I mean, truly, there's age discrimination out there, and you know, how do you combat it? What do you do? And a lot of the advice I got was, you know, keep your resume to 15 years. Talk about what value you can provide, because at the end of the day, it really doesn't matter how old you are. If you're, you know, if you can provide value to the company and you've got energy and want to work, it doesn't matter how old you are. And if you're willing to learn and do the job and be part of the team. And that's pretty much what, you know, I've always tried to portray when I'm interviewing and whatnot.
I also think in the same way that you want to show up in your search for another person to spend your life with, that you want to show up authentically, it's only in your best interest to show up authentically as it relates to your job search, because if you don't and you wind up actually getting a job, then and you weren't authentic on the process through that, then you're not a good match for that job. It's sort of the same thing as like catfishing another person. Like you may get in the short term what it is that you're looking for as far as satisfaction or companionship or what have you, but how much longevity is there and how much sustainability is there? Like
You're not going to find a match at the end
exactly,
of
or
the
at least
day.
a long-term match if that's what you're looking for. And what's been funny for me is like I don't know about you, but like I want both. I want like a great long-term sustainable career, and I want a great long-term and sustainable relationship at the same time.
Yes. Is that too much to ask?
Yeah, it feels like it.
It feels like it sometimes. It really does, especially when you're super invested in your career being something wonderful and successful and something you're proud of, as much as you are your family or your relationship. It can totally feel like you're trading one for the other at times, or that you have to complete one to some semblance of success in order to then even invest time in the other one. Which
No,
is,
I love that it's simultaneous and you're both walking through this together.
isn't it weird? It's kind of funny.
Yeah,
It could kind of be a reality show, honestly. So we need to bring the cameras with us on their next.
Yes.
So truly, you know, I took an early leave and I immediately enrolled in her class to see like what should I do,
She
and
did.
got
It was awesome.
great feedback and great direction, and it was really fun to see what she really created and walk through it and experience it, and it's awesome. So
Okay, so shout out to the Tracy class. Catch
Oh my
us
gosh.
up. Tell us about the
Aw,
courses. We're all
thanks.
signing up.
Yeah.
Go for it, girl.
Me too.
Yeah, so the business is called Thrivist, and I'm a big nerd. So Thrivist, right? What does thrive mean? It's to flourish and to grow. And ist, the suffix is one who does. Right, so an artist is one who does art. A thrivist is one who thrives.
Tracy just got chills.
Right? I know. As soon as my marketing team brought it to me, I was like, yes, I can nerd out on this big time. So we basically shifted our whole business to help people thrive. And where we start with that is career, because I think, especially here in the United States, career is at the center of most of our lives most of the time. You spend 5 out of 7 days a week doing it. You spend the majority of your waking hours doing it. And usually when you're not doing it, you're thinking about it. And you're bugging the people in your life about it. So what better place to start when it comes to thriving than finding something that you love and allowing that to be the center and the source of your energy, so that the rest of your life you have a chance at thriving in all these other ways. And so the course that we have now is this amazing 10-week long discovery course that literally walks you step by step through the discovering the puzzle pieces of what makes you you and your value, like you were talking about, your professional value, no matter where you are in your life. Right now, our youngest client is 24, our oldest is 54. So they're all in different phases, right? We're such a good example of this.
You are.
But it's fascinating to watch them have these brilliant aha moments throughout the process, because they really are discovering their true value as professionals and then defining their genius zone. And the thing that brings this and relationships together, which I love, is that your dream job is no more a title then your dream person is their name. Like, what's your husband's name?
Nicholas.
Nick. Oh, look at the
Call him-
face she said. You're like,
I call him
Nicholas.
Nick, but Nicholas, and I will
Nicholas.
address him as Nicholas because we're on a podcast.
But as you
so
were
it's very
looking,
distinguished.
right? Oh, so distinguished. No, as you were looking for your Nicholas, you weren't looking just for a Nicholas. You were looking for A, B, C, D, E of this
Yes.
amazing person, right? And it just so happens that his name is Nicholas. That's the same thing with defining your dream job. You're not looking for business development, blah, 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 or analyst of blah, blah, blah. You're looking for A, B, C, D, G, all the, did I skip a letter? I think I did. You're looking for all the puzzle pieces that make that job. And then whatever the name of it happens to be, great, happy days.
That's what it is.
But that's not the goal, right? So what we're trying to basically deconstruct somebody's ideal working experience and then help them go out in the world and find where that is, which is probably a lot like helping anybody figure out what their standards are when it comes to dating and then go out in the world and search for that person. So just like anybody else, right? Like I think figuring out the standards when you're dating is sort of culturally understood, right? Like we all think about what are my non-negotiables? What am I this or that? When it comes to career, people are willing to do basically anything to get a job or the right job or get a certain salary. So it's helping people use those same principles that they would use in dating to say, no, this is not going to be a long-term sustainable fit for me when they're looking at potential jobs, which is kind of a funny overlap.
Step one is core values,
Yeah.
which is, important no matter what you're doing in terms of job, career, relationship, building a house, who knows, what you want, traveling. It's like, what is important to you
Yes.
at any point in time?
Yeah, and this is why I'm excited about Thrivist, because right now we do an incredible job helping people find their ideal career. And it's not just like, oh, we're a job search firm. It's literally defining those standards of your non-negotiables and your dream work experience, which is just as applicable to dating. So like
Tracy,
our
there's
next
an overlap here that could.
our next course
could
could
you start a
literally
dating
be
service.
Yes, well, it could vary. At the very least, it could be like, what are your standards? What are your core values? What type of person would overlap with that? What do you want out of a
Do you
relationship?
want to travel? Do you want to sit at home, watch TV?
Do you want a long-term relationship or not? And that's going to influence who you date and why and how and all those things. So just to help people get, I'm all about clarity. Clarity is like my magic word. Just to help people get clarity in themselves, almost a degree in yourself, for lack of a better term. So much so that you can go out in the world and make the next best decision in every area of your life. So it just so happens that what we do is career now, but the more that I see our dynamics, we could be even thriving as mother and daughter. I think it's a really beautiful synergy to think about thriving in your career and using those same standards when it comes to how you treat other areas of your life as well.
So let's just unpack that a little bit further.
Okay.
Just go with me here.
Yeah.
So how do you have clarity to figure out those non-negotiables within dating, within the job search, without losing or sacrificing yourself?
Yes. Okay. Yeah. I'll run with that.
Yeah,
This is my
no
area.
problem, yeah.
So I think first and foremost, the number one thing you have to know about yourself at any moment in time is your core values. And these have been a little bit overdone over the years. Most people use their core values to goal set and things like that. I use core values to help people understand what are the basic components of your life that if you don't have those components, you're missing a foundation from which you could do anything else. So if you are a person of integrity, for instance, and you're working at a company that's dealing under the table, or you're being cheated on, and you're constantly going back to that person, right? Cognitive dissonance in psychology will tell us that we can't live with a behavior and a belief that are at odds with one another for very long. It creates all kinds of anxiety and it makes us miserable, and we either have to change our belief or change our behavior. Well, what's easier? Explaining something away or breaking up with someone or quitting a job? Usually it's explaining that thing away, and we do it because we're already in it. So if you have an opportunity, maybe you've lost a job because of COVID and now you have a little white space to look around, or maybe you've unfortunately lost a spouse, or you're still single, or whatever it is. Now is the time to actually look at your own core values and say, what do I need out of life at a bare minimum to be happy? To not just like thrive, but to like be okay so that I can thrive, so that I can do more, so that I can go farther, and all those things, right? So you have to start with what it is that you value right now, and then everything grows on top of that. And the fun part about values is that they change. right? Like you as a single person or a married person or a mom or not a mom or a working professional or not a working professional, where we are in our lives often dictates what we value. And that's okay. That's great. That gives you a reason to go back and look at your values on a consistent basis to remind yourself, hey, 5 years ago, maybe it was money that motivated me, and that's fine. Maybe it was career success, and that motivated me, and that's fine. Maybe it still is, but maybe it isn't. You know, maybe it's being the best mom ever, the best spouse ever, the best community member ever, the best church member ever, the best golfer ever, you know, whatever it is, right? Like she just recently picked up golf again, which is super fun for you. Not for me because I don't golf, but you know what I mean? Like everything has to begin with knowing yourself well enough to know how to navigate the world no matter the external circumstances. And there was no better example of that than the pandemic for us to see that we don't get to control everything. So how many people had plans that were like foolproof plans, doing the safe thing, and all of a sudden the safe thing, like working for airlines or working in healthcare, or right, all of a sudden became the not safe thing or the most hard to get into thing or the thing that was laying everybody off. And so many people who'd taken the safe route and been sort of crossing their fingers to just get to retirement, you know, in this safe route are now going, well, shoot, like, what do I do? Because the safe route's gone. And what I try to teach people is that if you know yourself and you know your values and you have a mechanism or a method to go back and figure those out at any given point, then you're back in control. You're back in the driver's seat. It doesn't matter what the circumstances are, you can navigate them well. They may not be ideal circumstances and you may not have an ideal set of choices, but you can still choose your best choice. You know what I mean? Especially when it comes to career.
So you use those two examples, and then I wanted to ask you, so with somebody that you're dating that perhaps is cheating, or a company that does not meet those core values, and that perhaps disbelief in your head of, I could fix, I could change.
Yes. Maybe integrity is not so important to me. Maybe they're doing this for a reason, right? All those things you say in your mind.
How do you help navigate through that so they don't meet the core values? So that's it. Cut it off. Break up. It's over.
You got to make the tough choices.
I think
Have you experienced that in your life? Is there anything you can share with our audience that, you know, I'm sure several of our listeners are struggling right now with something, and it may not be, you know, cheating or that, right? But it's something where it's like, but maybe things could change. Then you wake up 5 years later and it didn't.
And they don't.
I wasted all that time working at this job that was unfulfilling. But there was that little voice in your head like, this isn't my value.
Mine was the work one. I don't know if you have an experience like that. I know you always loved your job for the most part, which I was super insanely jealous of growing up because I didn't know what I wanted to be. My first job out of college was on Wall Street. And looking back, Einstein has this great quote that everyone is a genius, but if you judge a fish by its ability to climb a tree, then the fish will live its whole life feeling stupid. Right? And so when I look back on the Wall Street experience, in so many ways, I was Tracy the fish and Wall Street was this tree, but I was Tracy, this hardworking, overachieving, box checking, you know, overscheduled millennial fish, and Wall Street was my Everest of a tree. But no matter how hard I worked towards it, it didn't meet my bare minimum standards for viability, let alone thriving. So not only was who I was as a person and what I valued as a person not of value there, it was a negative value, right? So one of the examples that I use is I'm generally like a positive person. I don't know if you think that, but I think that at least I can turn it on, and I'm enthusiastic and energetic, and I love that about myself.
Oh, Tracy, you're one of the most positive, energetic people of our lives. I'm sure you get this from your mother as well.
Can you tell?
Like, the whole, and Garrett's in the studio with us. Like, there's just like all this energy just like radiating out of the studio right now.
It's the number one piece of feedback I get when I speak. People are like, we love your energy. And I'm like, great. I had no idea that was a thing about me, but wonderful. But when I was on Wall Street, it's inherently, unfortunately, a very negatively driven environment. So instead of celebrating other people's wins, you tear them down, generally speaking. If one person does a trade well, unfortunately, the opposite of that trade is the downside, right? So there's a winner and a loser in every transaction, generally speaking. Nobody's collaborative and working together. And so not only was my positive, energetic attitude not an additive thing there, it turned people off. Right? It literally put me in this sort of like pariah seat where they're like, oh, she's the weird one who says hi to people in elevators and like generally enjoys the company of other humans. And we're all over here going, ugh, must be nice.
Maybe it's Texas. I don't know.
People would literally walk past other people having lunch, and we could never really have lunch. We'd basically have to go upstairs, get our lunch, bring it back, and like eat at the desk watching our screens and whatever. But the bankers who officed upstairs would take these like leisurely lunches. They'd be sitting on the gorgeous patio or whatever, and instead of being like, oh, that'd be so great, we're like, ugh, must be nice. And then we'd walk by them and go get our sushi and go sit back down. Like, so in that case, I spent 2.5 years there thinking that this is where I needed to be successful in many ways that people treat their jobs and their relationships, right? This is what people expect of me. This is the person I was supposed to marry. This is the job I was supposed to have coming out of Yale. That was my life.
I'm committed. I'm in. I'm in this for the long haul. But then your life flashes before your eyes, and wait, what?
Yeah.
This is my life.
And you have that total dissatisfaction, and it's just you're miserable. You have to make a change. You just do, and it's hard for sure.
It is hard.
It's really hard.
I'm so glad you asked this
Hard
question.
for you, and then your family when she was going through that. Were you saying?
Oh my gosh, yeah, it's awful. Yeah,
You guys had no idea either, the extent of it, until I told you, And then they were like, oh, please quit. But before that, even
Dad was good about that.
Even
Yeah,
they
I
were
was
like,
can
no,
you-
stay the course. You can't quit a job without another job. Work is just hard when you're
When you're
young.
a kid, it's like, hey, play the instrument. Like, just see it through. Like,
Yeah,
committed,
stay
dude.
on the
Yeah.
team, the whole 9 yards. So it's really it's super hard as a parent to know, are they just not trying and not doing what they should, or are they really miserable and not
you're
meant
so
for that?
young. You have your whole life ahead of you. Just keep with it.
And don't quit. Nobody quits.
Nobody give up.
The whole quitting thing is just, that's a whole nother segment that
Yeah.
you've done a lot of.
I have done talked a
good
lot about that.
Talks about, but it's so hard as a parent to counsel your kids. But I would definitely encourage parents to let their kids experiment and grow and learn and try. The earlier, the better.
Right? Because rather do it in your 20s when the stakes aren't as high and the opportunity cost
Or your
of
teens.
dollars
learn
or
what
your teens.
what you like to do.
What a better option, right? Like give them,
Well,
outlets for that.
to your point too of earlier, just a flashback. You were talking about how the values change and we change, and so perhaps maybe our career or relationship that you had been in, and then all of a sudden people change, and then that it can be very scary and sad, right? But it can also be exciting. So you're celebrating those seasons in life either together or you're drifting apart.
Yeah.
And the same thing within working relationships too. And businesses change and evolve and so on and so forth. So I really do want to shout out to your career clarities and where you are now. And also just celebrating the season you're in.
Right?
Mother,
And she just got a job offer a couple weeks ago. So it's
I'm super
very
excited.
exciting.
Yeah, and it's like, it's exactly
Oh
what
my
I want
gosh.
to do.
Coming out of my Clarity program, she basically wrote what is now this job. They're identical. It's terrifying, but I think that chalks it up to like laser focus. When you know what you're looking for and you know your standards and you know your non-negotiables, you sift through all the distractions. And this is true for dating and for job search, right? If you're open to anything, then of course you have a million distractions. But and this is what the world will tell you, right? Be open to anything. Keep your options open. Don't have such high standards. Maybe this guy will be good enough, whatever. I don't know where that gets most people, but sometimes it gets you in relationships you don't like and jobs you don't like, and you can have that for only so long, I think, the sustainability of that, right? But if you're laser focused into what you stand for and who you are in the world, and to your point, or our points, right, where you add maximum value, professionally or romantically, I think that's when you strike gold,
What was it like going through this process with your mom, with your daughter? What was that like? I've gotta know this.
Which process?
This one right now.
So the
We've been through a lot,
right? Yeah. All of that with your mom, and I think that just to know each other on a deeper level and to be able to go through the 10 weeks, what was that? Were you able to see, Tracy, some overlaps between you and your mom where you're like, wow, this is me too? Like,
yes. How do I like bang my head on the microphone? No, we are so similar in many ways that are wonderful.
Same but different.
And in many ways that are not. Like there are some things that we're very different about. Yeah. But what was cool about watching you go through the program, we didn't work together directly. I have a couple of wonderful coaches and guides who help our students through the process, but I got to watch it third hand, or second hand, I guess, I thought of all the people that I know in my life, she doesn't need this. right? Of all the people that I've ever met, you were the one who stumbled on a class when you were in your 20s in computer science, fell in love with the industry, and you've literally been at the same company for 31 years, growing with the industry and doing the thing. And so I was always envious of that. Bitter, probably. But B, I thought, oh, she knows, right? Of all the people in my life, you have clarity. And then to watch her go through the program and still discover things about herself, that's when I was like, oh, this really works. Because even for someone who purports to know themselves as well as you do, and you do, there were still learnings. There were still major, like, epiphanies and light bulbs going off. And that was the coolest part for me as a business owner to watch, because I just sort of assumed that you were the kind of person that wouldn't need what I had built, and it turns out like you benefited from it too.
Yeah, and I was so excited to go through it too, to see and experience, because I mean, over the years, just watching so many people that she's helped and seeing them come alive and find what they really want to do, it's just been super gratifying to me as a parent to know that your child is helping other people, you know, and those other people are helping the world too by putting out, you know, what they're meant to do. So for me to go through the program and see it in real life was really good too.
So Marianne, we're all dying to know, what did you discover about yourself?
Well,
It's the talk of the town. Tell us about it.
what did I discover? It wasn't like earth shattering. A lot of what I learned was what I already knew, but I was able to kind of hone in on one of the aspects of my jobs that I really loved. And so technical writing, I know it's super boring. And
We're fascinated that technical writing is what lights your fire.
Yeah, I know. Everyone's like, oh, but you know what? The people
It
that
really
appreciate
does.
it are like, thank God for you, because we don't like to do it.
So you're like writing the directions, like down to the point of, like,
Yeah,
what's technical
so
writing?
it's IT specific, so systems related, documenting systems and
Processes,
how they work,
how things
and
work.
diagrams.
Who does
Out on
this?
the
I
show.
do.
Well, she's lighting up right now.
Sarah, people, she gushes. She
do, I
gushes.
love
She's
it.
like, so there are all these people and nobody knows what they're doing and it's a hot mess and I get to go in and I get to interview them.
We
and
need
to-
more people like you.
Right? And meanwhile, I'm just like, oh God, like,
Yeah,
I can't.
I love it. I know.
Yeah.
It's weird, but
Oh, you make the
It's
world a better
okay.
place.
so I know.
Exactly.
So the woman I interviewed with, she was telling me all the issues that they had and what, and I'm like, let me in there. I want to do it. She's like, okay.
I was like, oh dear. But I mean, how wonderful is that? That like you can find something that is maybe not gush worthy for most people and you're
No,
just like
but that's okay.
excited at the challenge and the prospect of it, which is just amazing.
Yeah.
So then this reinforced lighting the fire of technical writing. What else did you discover throughout the 10-week course in the process?
My core values had changed.
They
That's
had.
true.
So what were they
Significantly.
before? Significantly.
I would say.
Yeah, it was really interesting. You know, working at a job and having the kind of feedback and feeling helpful and useful and knowledgeable. I totally lost all that when I didn't lose my job, but left the company.
Right.
And so I didn't have that in my world. And it's like, oh my gosh, I really need that. That is something that's just so critical for me. And it wasn't a core value before. Obviously, because I had it and I didn't
Even
sense
recognize that it was missing or
right.
could be missing.
right. And
Yeah.
then when I was missing it, that's when I really noticed that
So-
I needed it.
Tracy, break down what that core value really means then from the...
I think it's significance, if I could put a word on it, but particularly being appreciated for the work that you do and adding value to someone else's life. Like you're a helper in sort of every sense of the word, but you also want to see the fruit of your labor and to be recognized and rewarded for that.
Well, isn't that all of us a little bit?
Oh, absolutely.
Or do we already have in our heads, some of us, the words of affirmation constantly flowing, so it doesn't matter? what
No,
other people
I
say?
truly think some people
Just
could,
need more of that externally.
some people need more of it.
Like a
to-
third-party validation kind of thing? Or a...
Yes, yeah, you could say it like that, but it's really that they thrive off of the recognition. That there's like, I want to work even harder because I've been given this. Not like I expect to
For
be
the
told
attaboy
I'm
or the
amazing.
attagirl and pat on the back.
Right, not the sort of, I don't know, the way that maybe millennials are sort of looked at, which is like, oh, I just expect everybody to tell me I'm awesome and special. It's really that I worked hard on this and I'm going to feel so much better about that work if one person goes, we could not have done this without you. I would say the other funny part about the two of us, going through this career thing is one thing. Going through dating alongside of your mom is
Weird.
unique.
But then what about dating alongside your daughter?
Well, I'm used to her dating.
That's true. And now I'm finally like, oh, you get it. Like, you get how hard this is, right?
Yeah,
she's like,
I
dude, she's like,
do.
I feel for you now, in such a better, in such a different way.
Empathize.
Yeah.
For sure.
Yeah. Our empathy has changed a lot for one another. Because I would say past high school, we didn't have a lot of shared experiences because she went on to get married, had this career for her whole life. And I went to college and then sort of had this big fancy job and then blew up my whole life and then traveled for a while and came home and I'm still single. And so she'd be like, I guess you're doing okay, or, whatever. And so it wasn't until recently when, you went through the career shift and dating that we both kind of got back on the same page at different phases, which is kind of funny. So
I'm going to suggest, I'm just going
Yes.
to put it out in the world, when you guys start to go through the dating, that by at least the second date, if not the first date, you do the double date.
woo!
You know what I mean?
Yes.
If they can handle...
Those poor guys.
Those poor guys.
But you know what I mean? Like, very strong men come to that, and it's... You know
They
what
show
I mean?
up.
It'd be
Yeah.
really
Yeah.
interesting.
Oh, I'd love
You
that'd
could
be
just
so
really
fun.
start vetting. Honestly, you should do that every week. Let's just vet through the double date. You're
Maybe once we
there,
become
so
the
great.
talk
Okay,
of the
so
town, we
We'll be
will.
over here at the wine bar. You can come meet us, and then have the list
There
of 10.
we
And
go.
then next. And then Garrett and I will film the whole experience.
I don't hate this idea. It'd be a great excuse to drink wine with you, which we do a lot anyway, and meet boys.
And I can help with the matchmaking. I did a matchmaking show one time. It was a lot of fun.
Really?
Oh, yeah. I
Yes.
secretly would love to be a matchmaker someday.
All right, let's do it.
All right.
I'm open. I'm
Cheers,
game.
Garrett.
I'll tell you my
Garrett.
standards. You can be my recruiter. It'll be great.
Garrett,
Yes.
what do we think?
I think that any excuse you can make to have the wine bar be written off as a business expense is great.
Listen, Garrett, you're gonna bring that energy that these guys need, where it's like, hey guys, I'm here to. You're gonna be fine, or I sympathize with you.
Yes, they're gonna need that. You could slide them a little bourbon.
See
in
all
the
that
background.
whiskey next to you,
Yeah.
Garrett. All that whiskey next to you.
Throw some of that up there for him.
That'll work. He's like, listen, if it doesn't work out, you at least get whiskey out of
So
the deal.
Garrett, let's
Yeah.
bring you in real quick. So if you were invited to a date, are you single, Garrett? Are we
I
doing this in the
am,
world?
yeah.
Okay, so if you were invited, super cute girl, we'll just say Tracy, and she says, hey, yes, I accept the date, but let's meet here, and actually my mom's gonna also be there on a date, or is it weird if you just show up and then like, oh yeah, that's my mom over there on a date? I mean, what would go through your head? Is that like, wow, cool, now I get to know like what it would be like
Or
meeting
run.
your mom.
I feel like
you
most
would
guys would run.
Like, let's just get it out of the way,
I
I
think
think
that
the
would have to
mom
be
adds cool factor. She's awesome.
Well, she
right?
is cool. Someone called you a legend this weekend, and I
Oh,
was like, yeah, it was
really?
Nick, British Nick.
Oh, British Nick, I love him.
So,
I was gonna say I think it'd have to be like a second date situation. The
Second
first
date
date,
situation.
first date, you'd be like, okay, there's some weird dependency issues here.
that's
But-
fair. I totally feel that. Yeah.
I
Yeah,
don't.
second date, that'd be a good
Second
litmus
date.
test too. Because also it's just like, hey, are you cool with my family? Is my family cool with you? That's always a good thing to determine if it
Yeah.
is like a long-term sort of thing you're looking for.
We'll be back from the wine bar segment. We want to hear from you guys. If you have any questions about dating and career, I think we need to have round 2, guys. So we're going to answer those hot takes and questions. This has been Talk of the Town. I don't want to end the segment. We've had so much fun.
You're so fun. And thank you so much for having us and for even, it wasn't originally going to be both of us. What a great idea. And thankfully we're all in our best floral today. And so
It's spring.
it's
No,
spring.
we had
Gorgeous
to.
day.
No, this is fantastic. More the
No,
merrier.
this is
And you guys
wonderful.
have been so fun. And Garrett, thank you again for your hot takes and opinions, especially when it comes to dating.
Here to help. Here to help.
Yeah, here to help. All right, guys. We'll see you guys next time on Talk of the Town. I'm Sarah Crilley. We'll see you guys next time. And then we'll all wave at the camera.
Yay.
Woo! Okay, let me guess. Was that an hour? This show is brought to you by Real News Communications Network, your digital destination for video podcasts, produced by media and podcast experts. Podcasting at the speed of news, powered by Real News PR. Visit realnewscn.com for our podcast show library and launchashow.com to do just that, launch a show.